Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. For all the newcomers, I am Leon Ezequiel Escares, an intern from Ateneo Salt, and I will be the room coordinator for Room 5 of the ADL Learning Exchange. Our second speaker for this afternoon is the current chairperson of the Department of Curriculum, Pedagogy, and Assessment of our newest school, the Gokongwei Brothers School of Education and Learning Design, Dr. Rhodora Nicdao. Her talk will highlight the different learning and teaching practices that were not that effective in engaging students, and it will also highlight the reasons as to why these practices didn't work from the lens of learning theories. Dr. Rhodora Nicdao, the floor is now yours. You may now unmute yourself.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rhoda, and I'd like to share something with you now. So I'll share my screen now. Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. May I start, Leon?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
So the title of my talk is The X and Y's of My Online Teaching, Reflections on What Did Not Work and How I Moved On. Again, just a short caveat, I'm not a listen fan, but when Mr. Ngor requested me to join the learning exchange, he said that not just to focus on best practices, but also learnings on some of the things that did not work. Hence, the title of my presentation. Okay, okay, this is a brief outline. So I'll start a brief self-introduction, which actually Leon did already, and then the structure of my sharing, and then of course we're going to have the short Q&A. Okay, so a little about me. As Leon said, I'm a faculty of GV the newest school in the Loyola schools. I teach education courses both in the undergrad and grad level. Okay, I have 32 years of teaching. That dates me, no? So please don't compute my age at the moment, no? But despite the 32 years of teaching, it will also tell you that I'm a digital immigrant. So I'm not tech savvy. And therefore, I had to take the ADL training very seriously. So I hope you will be patient with me if there are certain glitches in my presentation, no? So because as I've said, I'm not a digital immigrant. Okay, so this is the structure of my sharing. Basically, it will be divided into four parts, and each part will be structured in terms of three frames. No, first I'll tell you about the X. The X does not necessarily mean that it is a wrong practice, but maybe for that particular context, for that particular time, it can be considered an undesirable, inappropriate, or irrelevant. Okay, next would be my reflections. Why did it not work? Okay, and I will briefly examine it using the lens of educational concepts and principles. And lastly, syempre pag may X, kailangan naman mag-move on, hindi ba? Hindi ka ma-stuck sa X, no? And Y's and thinking about it. So there has to be some kind of action to it, hindi ba? So parang IPP lang yan, you have your reflection, and then the reflection should actually lead you into some kind of action. So the action will now be what I did to address the X. Okay. So because I only have a few minutes for sharing, okay, and for easy recall, I'll share with you four X's, no? And to easily recall them, okay, you can think of the mnemonics A, B, C, D. First would be assume, first X, assume that they know. B, establish a business-like learning environment. C, create templates. And D, discussion board. Thanks to Mr. Galvingo for letter D. He was the one who sort of bring that up in our conversation. Okay, so I proceed now. Okay, X1, assume that they know. Okay, now even before I was doing on-site teaching, having been a teacher for 32 years, I already know that when students come to you, they don't necessarily have a mastery of all these prerequisite concepts and skills. Precisely because, okay, there are gaps, no? And it is because of personal, social, or academic context. And I also know, okay, that a new material will never be learned unless it is linked to a previously learned material. So why did I put this on my ex if alam ko na naman pala ito eh? But my learning here when I started doing ADL teaching or online teaching is that all the more it was heightened because now classes are delivered online. First of all, okay, the gaps, if you were in an online setting, it could be easily filled up by interaction with colleagues, but we know now that that is very limited, no, so there is hardly any interaction with their classmates. Number two, okay, also is the limitation in terms of consultation of with the instructor. Okay, that's me. Dati-rati, they just hang out in the faculty room, say hi to me, segue na to ask, ma'am, I did not understand this. Can you explain this further? But now, you have to set an appointment, we have to do online consultation, and it's really very difficult. And third, before, to address the gap, they can just easily go to the Rizal library, look for materials, no? But right now, again, the access, okay, to materials is limited. So I realized that even if I knew this, all the more that I should pay attention to that to assuming that idea of assuming that they know. So what did I do? Okay, in my modules, I think I highlighted even more the idea of activating prior knowledge. Okay, again, as I've said, we have to link the new material to what has been learned previously. And how did I do this? Very simple. I gave them a task, okay, and I asked straightforward answers about the concept. So, for example, here I asked them questions about constructivism because that was our topic. So these are very straightforward questions about the topic, and their responses informed me about like how to proceed in designing the that particular module. Okay? Now, you can infuse some fun. Pwede ka namang mag ungraded quiz, no? Short quiz lang. And this is an example of a module wherein I tried to, gauge what they know about current about the Philippine educational system. So and after ask them answering these questions, I made them reflect what was most difficult to answer, what was the easiest, and why. And then it's not only the knowledge and skills that you have to pay attention to. I think it's equally important to see if they are in the right disposition about learning. So in one of the courses, I started the module again with this question. No? So start with the why, and their answers, okay, will tell me whether they find that the course is relevant to their what personal and professional goals. No, so these are some of the strategies that I use to activate prior knowledge. Okay. So next, okay, X2, business-like learning environment. Of course, being new to online teaching, excited ako. And I was so serious about finishing, okay, the modules within that 7 or 8 weeks given to me. Siyempre, digital immigrant, right? Konting pakitang gilas. But then I realized I was too focused on content, on structure, and also on achieving learning outcomes. And I assumed that just because students were in my class, that again, they are in the right disposition to learn. But then I realized motivation was low. Ang haba ng wait time ko kapag meron kaming synchronous session. And I realized, why? And I got feedback from my students. Part of it was that they felt some discomfort. They were not at ease because, well, for one, they don't know each other, and also they don't know me that well. So how did I move on? Okay. Uh so so um I realized, okay, the why now, I realized that, student engagement studies tell us that before you can cognitively engage your students, they have to be emotionally and psychologically engaged. In other words, they feel that they should be in a safe, welcoming learning environment. And studies on emotions and learning also tell us that for them to actually be receptive to learning, they should be in the appropriate learning states. So, how did I address this? Paano ko nag-move on? So, like in most of our sessions, even if it's say a faculty or admin meeting, lagi may kamustahan, no? Or getting to know you. So, for example, I remember doing this with my graduate students, no? So, I told them, at the beginning of the session, just pick one question and then answer and give us an answer. Some of these questions actually I picked up from some of the faculty meetings that we had. No, so I think this is a very good icebreaker to make class members comfortable with each other and also to be comfortable with you. Kasi part din na nag-share ako. Or maybe that classic question, how do you feel today? And I tell you that one question will reveal a lot about the emotional and psychological state of the students. Ma'am, I feel so tired because I did not sleep. I had to finish this. Or, I cannot concentrate now, ma'am, kasi I'm thinking of my other responsibilities at home. That, no? So it gives you the pulse of the class and therefore informs you of how deep, okay, you will proceed in terms of the discussion. Okay. Also, asking them, what are you grateful for? This one I remember very well with my undergrad class, no? And, after the sharing, very little things. Ma'am, today I feel so accomplished kasi na-ice ko yung room ko. Today, I finished doing all the, how do you call that, yung my exercises. Or today, I finished this project. Papakita pa sa amin yung example ng project. And before you know it, we've spent about half of the period talking about what they are grateful for. And it's okay for me. I was not stuck to finishing what I prepared for that synchronous session, because more important for me is that my students feel that they belong. And then when I ask these questions, it's important, I think, to tell your students, please don't give me a socially acceptable answers. I don't want answers that will make me happy. Give me answers that will make me understand you better as a member of my class. Okay, so this is one strategy, the kamustahan, okay, that I use in my class. Another one is checkpoint. Okay, and I give credit to Mr. Ngo for this. Um, you know, it's important that at some point in the module, kinukumusta natin sila. No? Kamusta ba yung module? Okay ba? Lalo na if it's, the first run of the module. So find out, no? What worked for you? What was challenging? And I think that's important because that information will help you design your modules better. So I call it a checkpoint. Okay. So that's for X2, establishing a business-like climate. Okay. Now, okay, X3, creating templates. Okay. So what's a template? A template tells us that something's a little bit more fixed, di ba? So there's a format, it is very structured, no? So in the context of ADL or online learning, it is fixed output, okay, research essay, a quiz, or fixed procedures and processes. So this is how I structure my synchronous session. So we start with this, and this. Okay, for people like me who like structure, it actually is beneficial because it provides organization and flexibility. Okay. However, feedback from students, okay, tell me that it somehow stifles their creativity and to some extent their autonomy and agency. Why? Because they have no say in how they are going to learn. It's all dictated by me. And to some extent, I'm not flexible in that manner, no? And I also realized that actually this do being fixated on templates, on very fixed way of doing things, does not consider individual differences, learning styles, and preferences. So, having realized that, how did I move on? Okay. Before that pala, I just want to share this with you. Of course, it's from the internet, but I think this really captures, okay, it's a very good framework for us to remember, okay, not to be fixated on templates, not, but to give students a voice, a choice, okay, in terms of the path that they will take and in terms of the place and pace, no. So I just like to share this with you because I think it is very important, so that students will really feel that they are actually very active participants in the learning process. Okay, so how did I give them choice and a voice? Okay. This is an example of an assessment task that I provided in one of the courses that I teach. Of course, ang template ko is a written assignment of 75 to 80 words. But I said, okay, hey, why not try an elevator pitch, and have the students do a creative output. So they had an option on whether to do an audio recording, a video, or a multimedia presentation. And believe me, okay, about 80% of my students did the creative output. Okay, despite the fact that it will entail more time, more resources. And I asked them during our synchronous session about feedback about this particular assessment. And one student said, "Oh, ma'am, I really enjoyed it. Even it took a while, but, it didn't feel like I was doing a course requirement." And that really was a big, okay, what? That was very insightful for me, no? And and one of the students said, I like it because I can express myself. And believe it or not, really, I took my time viewing and reading their outputs for this particular assessment task. And I really enjoyed their presentation. Paulit-ulit pa. And that was all that we talked about when we had the next synchronous session. Okay, this is another example of again a choice. No, I would only ask for say a research essay, but this student said I would like to do a creative output. Okay, on top of that essay that you want us to do. So here he that this student provided a metaphor. Okay, it's like this planetary system vis-a-vis this human development theory. And I also like it, no? And I didn't feel bored reading her paper because nga it's very creative. Okay. Here's another example. Again, no, usually for some one education class, I'd ask them to write out a personal teaching philosophy with guide questions. Kasi may template nga ako, no? But this student wrote to me and said, "Ma'am, may I, in lieu of that essay, can I just make a creative output, making sure that all the components are there?" And I told her, yes, you may. And the others also did the same kasi may isa nang nagtanong, no? And yeah, it was really fun, but it was also substantial. And I noticed when it's a creative output, students have more to say, no? So I realized that yes, I think it's good to give them options. It's good to hear their voice. It's good to give them choices. Okay. And lastly, okay, discussion X4, discussion board. Okay. Discussion boards are really powerful learning tools, no? Because they encourage active participation and it allows students to communicate ideas. In fact, this, well, in a way, takes the place of the recitation or discussion in an online, in an on-site setting, no? But the problem with me was that, again, because I was so fixated on templates, I had too many discussion boards. So parang 1:1, new topic, discussion board, subtopic, discussion board. And one, I remember some students said that, "Ma'am, it was so tiring to answer the discussion board and to write a post on the discussion boards." And they felt so pressured that they have to reply because they also see their classmates are posting, no, and I did realize too much nga on my end. Despite the fact that I tried to justify it saying, formative assessment naman yun eh. But it's taking it to the extreme. And also another feedback that I got is that, you know, they said the discussion boards tend to be very, they look at it as a formal exchange of ideas, and therefore they have to watch out in terms of the way they express their ideas. They have to observe conventions of writing, and to some extent, because they are they sort of, they are constrained by that, you know, they are not able to spontaneously articulate and communicate their ideas. And so, moving on, okay, not too many discussion boards. Okay, what did I do? Okay, instead of discussion boards, I use visible thinking routines. Visible thinking routines are mini strategies that provides prompts, and these prompts actually help students to il, uh, to extend and elaborate their thinking, no? So in a way, it guides the thinking process because of the prompts. These are routines because ideally this should be used regularly in class, and it becomes part of your classroom routine, just like your rules and your procedures. So this is one example that I use, the PMI, or the plus, minus, and interesting visible thinking routine. And what I do is I give them a reading, and instead of asking like you know, questions about the content itself, I post this, no? So what is it? What idea do you agree with? What is it that you disagree with? And an insight that you have gained, no? And just very short lang. And of course, if you notice, paborito ko talaga yung Padlet, because students said that, you know, the Padlet seems fun and engaging because it's colorful compared to the discussion boards. Okay. This is another visible thinking routine that I use. Step inside. So here now, you allow your students to be in the shoes of a particular person, a situation, or an event. No. So in this case, it was the idealist teacher, because we were talking about idealism as a philosophy of education. Again, another example of a visible thinking routine. So connect, extend, and challenge. No, so I just sort of make the questions appropriate to the particular content of the module. So this was talking about education during the ancient period. Okay. Another visible thinking routine. Okay. And of course, I use Padlet is I used to think, but now I think. This is usually a module ender. No? So it tells you about the changes in the thinking of the students as a result of going through the module. Okay. So uh, uh, here I end with a table, okay, summarizing my ex, the whys, and how I moved on. No, so again, these are just a summary of the key ideas in my presentation. Okay, so thank you, and if you there are questions, I don't promise to be able to give you all the answers, but I'm willing to share whatever I can to you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nicdao. I guess with the remaining time we have, we can address a few questions that came up in the chat box. One is from Mr. John Abletis. How do you deal with the students asking for additional tasks for incentives or additional grades?
Mm. Okay. What is the okay? May I know the purpose for asking? Is it because the grades are very low, or because there are different motives, right? Either the current class standing is low, or wants to meet a certain grade. Okay. Wants to meet a certain grade to make it to the honors. May I just need the context.
Sir Abletis, you may unmute yourself if you want, if you would like to.
Both. Okay, he said both. Well, again, no, I don't have a clear-cut answer to that, but most often, depending, I am more inclined to give some kind of a sort of a makeup, okay, for those with low grades, no. Most often that is most often I give them makeup. In the spirit of cura personalis, but I think also that it has to be fair, no, because of course, others who probably want to do the same but did not articulate their wish, parang unfair naman, no, but in those cases I do accommodate such requests, no, but keeping in mind that I do not give unfair advantage to those students. Okay. I hope I answered your question.
Okay, I think we can take one more question. From Kim Mendoza, do you grade discussion boards?
No, I don't. Because I use that as part of my formative assessment. I know that some course instructors do, but that there we all have our own rationale. But in my I use it as formative assessment, so they're not graded. I do have an end of the module assessment task. Okay, because the for me the discussion board should sort of prepare them for the final assessment task. No, so that's the way I use the discussion board.
Okay, we have 4 minutes left. From Sir Von, what was the optimal number of DBs and Padlets based on your course runs?
Hmm, optimal. You know, it will really depend on the learning outcomes, no, of that particular module, but I would say on the average for one module I would have about 4 to 5 because I break it in segments, so may checkpoints pa ako.
Okay, from Ma'am Jude, do you have a separate rubric if a student chooses a creative output? Does a student's design and creativity contribute to the grade?
No, no, I tell the students that kasi from the very beginning I already have the rubric, no. So what I look at is the content. Okay, so it is the learning that I look at. So I tell them, yes, certainly you may provide a creative output, but the creative aspect of that output will not in any way influence, no, the grade that I give you, because we have set rubrics and this would be more for the content and other aspects of the output that I look into, but not the creative aspect. Only
Um,
because, yeah, sorry, because not because it's an option, eh. It's an option. So, and not, let's face it, everybody has different, everyone has different ways of learning. So parang kawawa rin those who are not creative enough.
okay. Also, ma'am, some people from the chat are asking if they can have a copy of your presentation.
Ah, okay. I maybe I'll just course it through.
You
So
can email it to me po and then I can coordinate na lang po with Sir Galvin, no?
yes, I'll do that.
Okay, I think we have one more time for one last question with the remaining 2 minutes. How do you uniformly grade multiple types of outputs?
Mm, what do you mean by multiple types of uh, you mean the creative? Is that, yeah?
That is from Maria Lovelyn Paclibar. If you can clarify the
Ah,
question po.
Yeah, I think that question was already answered when it was
Oh,
asked
okay.
with a separate rubric. Thank
Okay, I think we can end it there. Thank you very much po, Dr. Nicdao and all the participants who joined us for this session. You may now move to the next session and I will be posting in chat the master document for the Zoom links of the other sessions, just in case anyone needs it.
okay. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Our next session will begin on 4:20 p.m.